Hello and welcome to another episode of Laptop Retrospective, and today I am here to introduce to you the T400. Now the T400 is a really special laptop because it is the departure from the T61 series that was originally developed by IBM and heralded in the Lenovo era in a very big way. 2008, when this was released, was a huge year for Lenovo. They had the release of the X300, and I have covered that ad nauseum on this channel, so make sure you're checking that out over here. And the T400 would be launched in a line of refreshes that would include machines like the X200, which I have also featured on this channel, and again, I'll leave the link right here if you want to take a look at that machine as well. And of course, one of the defining features of the T400 among many is that this featured the 16 by 10 display ratio. If we take a look on the T430 that would precede it in future generations, which has the 16 by 9 screen, we can see that that screen real estate does actually make a pretty significant impact. So if we line these machines up at the very top, which is just out of frame of the camera, you can see that it is a pretty significant difference. If you want to know the exact difference, we're talking about anywhere from 4 Excel rows, which, hey, might matter to you. As I mentioned, released in July of 2008, and this would replace the T61 and even share quite a few parts with it, such as battery and chassis components. However, that was only on the variants, of course, that were the same size. So the parts are not blindly swap in and out. Speaking of the display, which is a wonderful feature of this laptop, it came in 2 flavors in 14.1 inches, and that was either the 1280 by 800 TFT panel, a 1200 by 800 TFT LED panel, and then there was the super bright 680 retina frying display, which to my knowledge is the brightest display that was, I think, fitted on a ThinkPad. If there was one that was brighter, let me know in the comments section down below. And then it was also featured in a 1440 by 900 TFT and 1440 by 900 TFT LED. The CPU list that this was available with is absolutely massive, so poof! There it is, all up on the screen. The only thing that I will point out to you is that it was Celeron Duos, and Core 2 Duos. And it is socketed, so you can swap pretty much any of those CPUs in and out as you need. However, the cooling solution is designed for a TDP of 35 watts only. Some of those CPUs are above 35 watts, so it's going to run very hot, probably too hot. So if you are thinking about it, just be aware that the cooling solution might be a bit of an issue. Obviously, depending on the CPU that you chose, you would get different integrated graphics solutions. Generally speaking, the Intel GMA 4500 MHD was your standard integrated. And then you had ATI Mobility Radeon options of the HD 3470, 256 megabyte switchable, and of course this isn't supported in modern operating systems. So what you need to do is actually go into the BIOS and tell it to either use the discrete card or the integrated card. One side note on that is if you do have one of these and the screen is black, it could be that one of those cards has failed, and if you hook an external monitor up via the VGA port, you might actually be able to get into the BIOS and select a GPU that is still functioning. So just a piece of information, because the Radeons on these do have a bit of a history of conking out. RAM was DDR3 PC3 8500, 1066 megahertz. 8 gigabytes of RAM was the maximum on these, and 8 gigabyte single sticks and 1RX8 aren't detected, so just be aware of that. A few other things to consider is that it does feature the Ultra Bay Slim on this side of the machine, which is fantastic, and that will hold DVD, Blu-ray, a hard disk drive with an adapter, and a battery. So inside of there is a place for a battery to plug in to give you some additional battery life. Speaking of batteries on this thing, while we're on the subject, you had a 4-cell 37.4 watt hour, a 6-cell 56 watt hour, and a 9-cell 84 watt hour battery. And as you can see, the 9-cell is quite large, This one is also very, very old. It's only got about 40% of its charge remaining. A few other things to note about this machine is that it is highly customizable in terms of what you can modify in it. So thanks to McDonnell Tech, there is a beautiful guide on all the modifications that you can do to this machine, and I'll leave that in the description down below. But the X220 BIOS mod setup where you're putting in the Intel 7260, that works. Same process once you get a modified BIOS on there. The micro SD card wireless USB plug-in that I did on the X301, that mod works as well. So you can cram an awful lot of storage into one of these, and if you are looking to learn how to modify a computer on an extreme budget, picking up a T400 is actually an excellent place to start because of that BIOS being easily flashed aftermarket. Last thing I'll note is that we do have 3 mini PCIe slots on the inside. One is a WLAN card, one is the half height for an Intel Turbo memory or wireless USB, or that micro SD mod I mentioned earlier, and then of course your Wi-Fi card. You cannot install a SSD into that WLAN slot. There is no SATA lanes on that card. That modification only works on the X220 or newer. So if we take a look at ports, we do have a card slot. We have an express card on top, 2 USB, a Ethernet and modem, VGA, our vent exhaust. Along the back, we have the standard barrel plug for charging, as well as the Kensington lock slot. Over here, we have one final USB port. We have the Ultra Bay, which is easily ejected so long as the screw located here is removed right there. And this one is for quick ejects. And then all you need to do is pull that out and you can swap in whatever you need. Other things to note, of course, is that we do have a docking connector on the bottom for the docks that are compatible with this unit. And we can access our drive with this bay over here. Last but not least, we do have some stuff on the front. We do have FireWire. So if you need a laptop with FireWire, this is a good one. And then we have the independent headphone and microphone input jacks on the front and center of the machine. Last but not least, we do have a single-handed latch. And if you don't know the story behind the single-handed latch, I did sit down with David Hill and we talked about that. So I will also leave that link there. A few other things to note is that web cameras were an option on this. This one does not have it at the top. It only has the ThinkLight. And then it does have the optional fingerprint reader. You can totally run Windows 10 on this. It is possible. The McDonnell Tech guide that I've linked in the description goes through it in detail, how to do it exactly. However, I have put a copy of Elementary OS 6 Odin, which is just recently released on this, just to do something a little bit different. Out of order today, we are going to do a quick boot test to show how quickly we can get into the operating system. There is a 240 gigabyte SSD, which is going to give it a bit of a speed boost. I should mention that this is actually a laptop that I got off of Tech Dave. It does have the European keyboard, specifically the UK keyboard. And there are a couple of nuances that, beyond the shortcut keys, that you do need to worry about, particularly the size of that enter key I am simply not used to, or the left shift. But what can you do? Okay, and there we go. We are into the system. And I have to say, ladies and gentlemen, that running this with a Linux distribution that's even not super lightweight works really well. So if you're on an extreme budget and you need a computer to do some pretty basic tasks, but you also want to modify it, learn to tinker, this is a great machine to learn on just because of how easily accessible it is, how cost effective it is, and how usable it is. You're not getting USB 3.0 until the 220 era or the 230 era on all machines, but there is so much that you can stand to learn, to take apart, to service, and again, it's a perfectly serviceable machine. I should point out this isn't the top tier processor, obviously, for this unit. There are definitely faster CPUs and better configurations, But when it comes to enjoying YouTube videos, there is really no issue with running them. So if you plan to do media consumption, don't worry about that either. So with that being said, ladies and gentlemen, let me go ahead and shut this down, and I will show you all of the different parts that you can service yourself using a trusty screwdriver and a pry tool. And if you don't have a pry tool like that, what you do is you get a really old gift card and you just keep that lying around, because honestly, I love using that thing. Guitar picks too. Okay, now that we have the machine shut down, the very first thing that we can do is flip this over and remove the battery. Simply done with a single catch. This does expose the SIM card slot if that was equipped on this machine. The next thing to do, obviously, is to remove the Ultra Bay, put that back in, and then afterwards we can go ahead and remove the hard drive, or the SSD in this case. Out that comes. And then the next order of business is going to be the keyboard. And this does have keyboard drainage, so if you have a spill on the top of the laptop, it will drain through the keyboard and out through the bottom. It is really, really cool to see that in action. Not necessarily because you would want to do it, but because you know that you're gonna save your precious electronics. And if you're not familiar with ThinkPads, they generally use universal screw lengths wherever possible. And that is really, really handy when you're servicing these machines, because then you don't need to worry about, did I put that screw back in the right hole, and all that other good stuff. It looks like the other two screws for the keyboard are ready to go. So what I'm going to do is just turn this over, tip it over, and move those off to the side. Then what we can do is open up the machine, and in this case, the trackpad will lift up. And I'll just tilt this so you can see it, but it's really easy to service because that white piece of plastic right here simply has a pull tab, and out it comes. And on the back of this, of course, is the trackpad, 4 screws to remove and replace that. And then the fingerprint module is located over here. Now we have access to a whole bunch of other things. Immediately we have access to our 2 RAM slots. And in this case, we're running the maximum of 8 gigs with 4 gigabyte modules. And then of course we can lift the keyboard up, and the keyboard is best removed by moving it off to the left, grabbing the tab here, pulling up, and the keyboard comes free. And the keyboard is 1 unit. Theoretically, you could replace the track point right there if you really wanted to, but most of the time you're just buying the keyboard straight up. Once we have gotten further inside here, we can see several other modules, magnesium alloy, and it essentially acts as a roll cage. So right now I'm pressing down rather firmly on this, which would protect the optical bay. And it's flexing very, very little with some pretty firm pressing. And that's a good sign. We also have the CMOS battery there. We do have our WAN card stuffed away here and a Wi-Fi card here with some additional shielding on top. So if you need to service either one of those parts, you are taking off a few more pieces, but by and large you're going to get in there. Your fan is easily accessible to be blown out and cleaned through the top. And we can see that it's making contact with the CPU here. If you wanted to disassemble this further and do a CPU replacement, you're essentially looking at the removal of this shield here, and then obviously the removal of the cooling assembly. If you want detailed instructions, all ThinkPads are published with a hardware maintenance manual, and I will leave a link to that in the description as well. But as you can see, that's as far down as you really need to strip the ThinkPad T400 unless you are replacing the entire main system board. So hopefully, ladies and gentlemen, that will give you an idea on what you can still do with a T400, especially on the higher end of the CPU list. These are still beautifully serviceable machines, and all of the components are relatively inexpensive to replace or upgrade. The RAM, depending on its scarcity, might be problematic, but if you know the right specs, look on eBay or even at thrift shops, you might end up with some good buys. Batteries like this, genuine or otherwise, are not entirely inexpensive. This is an older genuine battery, but you can get newer ones for about 50 Canadian dollars that hold most of the same charge as the factory new ones. If you have any questions about this T400, it's not going to be going anywhere anytime soon, so please leave them in the comments down below, and I'd be happy to answer them as best I can. And who knows, maybe this will encourage you to go out and pick up an older computer to learn how to tinker, not only with the hardware, but the software as well. Thank you so much. I hope you enjoy, and if you did, I'm going to leave the big 4 at the bottom for you. Please like the video, share, subscribe, and hit that notification bell so the next time I feature a teardown and talk of a laptop, you'll be the first to know about it. Thank you so much. I will see you next time.